I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Michael Ellenberg, who serves as Executive Producer on the morning show, Pachinko and Scenes from a Marriage. Michael, we were saying offline that you're basically producing everything these days because you're just, you're super producer. So your credits as a TV producer are so impressive, and film, of course. On the TV side, you had a really strong year with 3 high-profile, popular, critically acclaimed projects. And you're the former head of HBO, so drama at HBO. So my point is, you're an experienced professional, and then, like everyone else, this thing called the pandemic hits, and it pretty much shuts everybody down. And instead of talking about how you work with the pandemic, I'd love for you to take us back to that time when we had no idea what was going on, and talk us through it. What were you feeling? What did you think was going to happen to the TV industry and the film industry? Were you worried? Were you scared? Talk us through it.
Thank you, Rob, for a very warm introduction. And yeah, I mean, that time when you were in it was first just make everyone safe. And at that time, it meant send everyone home, right? So your first obligation is do no harm. And you start sounding more like a doctor, right? And the scientist than you do like a producer. And then the part of the job, there was a fear, well, I'll go bankrupt, the whole thing will end, when will it come back? You could tell very quickly early on, that there was a clear insight early in the process that once testing was possible at scale, then you probably could come back. And I'll be honest, we're so tough on ourselves in Hollywood. There's many things to be critical of the industry for, but there are things that we're like really good at, and there are things to be proud of, right? And so, to be honest, once you got through the initial panic, terror, and things had stabilized, you realize, Hollywood's brilliant in logistics. Like, we're brilliant problem solvers. There are things that we're amazing at, and so step by step, brick by brick, you start to realize, okay, well, what would it take to actually still do super high quality work and do so and keep everyone safe and not be guessing at it. Like, it's either going to be safe or we shouldn't do it, right? And it was kind of inspiring in its own way. It was like terrifying and scary and a heavy responsibility, but it was also kind of amazing in realizing what we're capable of doing, and the brilliant, our executive producers on all 3 shows, the teams underneath them, the COVID experts, the COVID response teams, and you in kind of a 4-month period, got a tutorial in just how brilliant the people are who physically make what we do. And so that was the part that's actually heartening and inspiring. And it's 2 years later now, and everything feels normal, and we're used to this now. But it was really remarkable. And there were very few other industries in America or in the world who were able to figure out how to do that kind of work in that time. So it was emotionally intense, and you really couldn't think about the scale of responsibility at all times, or you just break down, like sit in a corner and cry. So there was a lot of emotional suppression, Robert, that probably, I think for everyone, they've just had these bursts where it just comes out.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of that time. And then you look back and you're like, you can't really imagine how we got through it, but it's actually a real credit to the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. I didn't really have a lot. I was feeling very skeptical when it hit, and it was like the end of the world. It really felt that way. And I'm so glad that we've been able to pull through. Obviously, a lot of destruction happened, but things are looking up, which is fantastic. And let's talk about some of the projects that you shepherded. Honestly, Michael, I love season 2 of The Morning Show, even more than season 1. I felt like it really hit its stride in season 2, particularly for me, Mitch Kessler's journey in Italy, and just generally, and of course, the end of what happens to him, and the razor sharp writing. We get to relive the onset of the pandemic. I thought that was genius. It was a knockout. What did you think?
I'm so glad you felt that way. It was, I'll add the pandemic to it. When morning show, unlike our other shows, was filming already and was shut down. So we had to, in real time, not only figure out how to shoot it safely, but have the story feel relevant. The idea that we would not address it seemed impossible. And I have to give Carrie Aaron tremendous credit. So we, no showrunner wants to hear, okay, I don't think we can shoot these scripts as we had them, right? So we got through that conversation. And then she slept on it and came back and said, I don't want to guess at what things will be like in 2 years. The show shouldn't do science fiction. What we all know is what were our lives like before the storm, right? And what were we also, this was a slow motion car crash. It was happening. We were all hearing bits and pieces of the news of this, and we're just like, it's not going to affect us. And so what we're all so busy with that we couldn't be bothered to pay attention to this pandemic coming until it was all over us, right? And so the truth of that, life, the best laid plans, like there are many, we complete many storylines in the season, but there are some that are just interrupted. And that was a very intentional design, which is sort of true to what we all were living. There were things that we were completely invested in that were still going to matter, and things that we just completely dropped. And we want to be true to that experience of what we all went through in that time, and what revealed about character, and also the things that were inspiring. Alex finds Alex is destroyed and reborn in one fell swoop, right? And character is revealed in crisis, right? That's a truth in life and a truth in storytelling. And so while we want to be very respectful to the pain and hurt people went through, but also potentially offer some light and what we all might learn and grow from this. Yeah,
that's right. And we get Mitch has a reckoning, and he's not let off, but he's also it's nuance. There's more nuance there. It doesn't have to be black and white. And also, you remember when we were hearing on the news that one case of COVID in Washington, I think it was, or in Oregon, it was somewhere on the West Coast, and we were all like, it's fine, we'll be fine. And then literally 5 minutes later, it was just like, whoop, we're all going to die. So yeah, I think the show captured that beautifully, but in a nuanced way. It wasn't the focal point of the season. So also,
Steve, we didn't want, I think there's just a general cultural curiosity, like, where do these people go? What happens to them? And is there a possibility of growth or redemption or not? And what kind of reflection happens or not? And didn't want to offer easy answers. Mitch isn't reborn as a saint, nor is he now more villainous than ever. He's somewhere in between. He would like to grow, it seems, but he's not sure he can. And so it's a beautiful arc, and the Italy, that was where we also, the weaving of COVID in its own. We wanted it to also just show up in unexpected ways like that,
Yeah.
And suffice to say, we filmed all of this in Los Angeles with some great plate work that was,
right?
And so I just remember driving to Pasadena. There was a house there we filmed in. Nelson Coates did an amazing job finding this house that was a replica, literal, not, I think, like from architectural design, not brick by brick, but literal a replica of an actual Italian villa in Tuscany, I think. So you would drive up there and you're like, oh wait, like I think we're here. And obviously the surrounding environments were changed digitally. But that was a real, Mimi's genius director. And so this season we did Italy, we did China. In one episode, we went to both countries. And that was also a real feat and insanely ambitious thing to pull off in this time. But but anyway, we were able to do so.
It's so good. I mean, I got to see the episodes with a lot of the plate work, and then I rewatched it when it actually streamed. And I just couldn't believe that you were able to pull that off. But speaking of other countries, you work on Pachinko, and that first surfaced as a project for development, I would argue, before the current Korean wave really hit. Right. And Parasite was around the corner, Squid Game was on the horizon. What do you attribute this prescience to? Like, can you see the future? What's going on there? How did you manage to find the right thing at the right time?
Well, yeah. So yeah, like doing my job, you're always trying to see what's coming and what's happening. And the reality for Korean storytelling, Korean content, Korean talent is, if you were a fan of great films, Korean cinema has been really exceptional for many decades now, and had gone global already. And K-drama was not only big in Korea, but that more than even the film, it's a huge following in East Asia, Latin America, and in America. My focus group of my mother is a good example. She watches K-drama fairly religiously. So
Wow.
I had a sense that it would be great to assemble a show and build, what the streaming world has offered us, which is we can build success in different ways. And so build a premium hit show that is anchored with an audience in Korea, in America, with Asian Americans and everyone here in America, and access the rest of the world on top. And you could build a different kind of hit with a different kind of audience. And this was an important story. The book, in a way, the first focus group was the book itself. The book is an American book, obviously a Korean story, and it's been a big success here with many different kinds of readers, and resonated with me. Obviously, I'm not Asian, but my father was born in Nazi Germany, fled in 1939, went to Panama with his family, then came to America. And by the time he was 26 years old, he was stationed in South Korea in the US Army. And
Wow.
So the experience, the story of Pachinko, while really specific in an incredible way about a Korean story, a Zainichi story, I also felt was incredibly universal. So it was the right way to both tell this story, but from the essence of their journey, it's a story about family, identity, refugees, war, displacement, love. These are all very universal themes, and you don't have to look hard to see these kinds of stories taking place in the world we're in right now. And so we grabbed onto it, And then Soo Hugh was essential. We have
Soo Hugh,
I'm not, so that's my job, which is identify an opportunity. That's as good as the showrunner creator. And Soo Hugh, when I met Sue, and both her as an artist and a visionary, and then her perspective on the material, it's irresponsible, but yes, you're correct. This was years before Squid Game and Parasite, and a year before, I think even Crazy Rich Asians, or a year before. But I felt certain, to be honest, when I was with her. Like from the first meeting, I kind of was like, this is going to happen.
Wow. It goes to show that when you have that connection with a showrunner and that trust, like Soo Hugh on Pachinko and Kerry Erin on The Morning Show, and Haggai Levy on Scenes from Marriage, you can really make a project fly. And that the question really for you is, what do you most value about showrunners like that? And what do you bring to the table in shepherding and supporting the creative vision?
It's the joy of my job, right? Which is, for me, Lindsay Springer, who's president of Scripted with us, the pleasure is, working with these brilliant artists in every sense. They're both artists, they're producers as well. And when you get in sync with what they're after, it's a great, you enjoy this kind of incredible partnership, where we're all trying to be irresponsibly ambitious. It's our job at Media Res to help them figure out how to realize these ambitions. Okay, we're going to do China and Italy in COVID in Los Angeles. Yes, okay, we're going to do that. A guy from the beginning on Scenes from Marriage, like, let's do this. Let's get two giant, brilliant movie star actors and do this. And let's give a brilliant experience, like theatrical experience, to a home audience, right? And that was in the most intimate look at a couple that you've seen in 50 years, right? And then with Sue, which is, let's take you to Korea in the 20s, Japan in the 30s, Tokyo in the 80s. And yes, we're going to integrate all these timelines and in one season. And you're like, that's amazing. And then the next day you're like, oh, we actually have to figure out how to do that, right? And so it's it's cool. Like we're drawn to, the kind of shows we're drawn to right now, fortunately, are the kinds that audiences and networks want, which are really different original things, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to stand out in the market. And so there's a nice alignment of art and commerce in that way. And so the showrunners and the projects we're drawn to are ones that don't look like anything else. And you then need great production minds, great directors, or to realize these things, or you really are, have nothing. With Hagai, you have both. He was writer and director, and all these people, you want to do anything with them.
Yeah. Scenes from a Marriage was probably, I think, the first main project that came out of Media Res, your company. And I don't think you could have found it too, a bigger production in terms of the actors, as you say, Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain. And it was so intimate and confronting and beautifully done. And the critics really responded to it. They actually also responded to your other two projects. I think TMS is hovering around 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. Pachinko's at 98. So the question really, this is my final question. When you put your heart and soul into something, you're working with the showrunners, the cast and crew, you're shepherding the creative vision, you bring something to life. In this marketplace, it's so chaotic, it's so noisy, there's so much great content, so many platforms and networks. How do you feel? Firstly, would you prefer a show to, crash and burn, or would you prefer it to just be ignored? Because I think being ignored would be horrifying.
I think the question you just asked is the number one fear I think everyone has right now, which is it's once you get through the hurdle of getting the thing made, it's especially the kind of shows Media Res focuses on. They're all made with love. They're all made by hand, and they're made with and we and our showrunners pour our hearts and souls into them. So yeah, the greatest fear you have is not that it sucks, right? We're all gonna, even the greats, you're gonna miss. Okay, so like that's not a desired outcome, Rob, either, but it can happen. But if you do all that work, you don't want to, if a tree falls in the forest, it doesn't make a sound. That's the fear everyone has right now. And all you can do on that front is, for Media Res, we like to focus on really original stories, things you haven't seen in a while. So our hunch and belief is audiences want to be challenged. It's built into the name of the company. They want to lean in, and we operate on the assumption the audience is smart. They're smarter than you, and if you throw the ball down the field, they're excited to go catch it. And so and we will be proven wrong in that. Certainly, that was the sort of way I kind of, from my HBO experience, from my producing experience before that, just being an audience member. That's the simple. It's less even about any of our professional experiences anymore. We program for ourselves first, and that's not. I'm a middle-aged white guy. I'm not the target demo. We have much more, but the rest of the company is. But we're all very hard to please consumers, and so we like to trust that first primary impulse, which is like, would I watch it? Is it going to move the culture? Does it have something new to say? And I don't see, there are some gems being missed by the public, but by and large, I think the things that really are unique and original are getting a moment in the sun. And for both press who are, they're overwhelmed. I mean, if the audience is overwhelmed, journalists like yourselves are like, I don't envy your job. But you're looking for something that's different also. Otherwise, your job's boring. You don't, if you have to watch 6 similar things a day, like I want to be the 7th. I always want to be the 7th thing where love it or hate it, it ain't like anything else you watch that day. And I think that's at least Media Res's approach, and so far, so good.
So far, so good. You've had a really good run, Michael. Good luck for your next projects, because the last 3 projects have just been amazing.
Thank you, Rob, for your kind words, really.